let's start with our third hangout this semester. And this time it's actually a very current issue, a very serious issue, talking about Syria. Before we start, however, could you briefly just introduce yourself very briefly so people who watch that later know who you are? Where do we start? Let's start with the ladies in the middle.
My name is Susu. Actually, my name is Nakama. You can call me Susu. I'm first year student and I'm taking PPE in major.
All right, thank you.
My name is from Myanmar. I am a student third year.
Third year, yes, nice. And
my name is Dan. I'm studying PPE as a first year student.
Alright, my name is Jonathan. I'm from Germany and I'm here since 2 years now, studying IRB. That's it.
I don't study IRB, I don't study PPE, I'm here anyways. I hope it's okay for you. Alright, then let's start with the topic. And when I prepared for today, and I had so many things that I wrote down and I lined out, and how do I want to start, what do I want to ask you, I threw it all away again, because it's like so difficult. And I thought we just start by what's the latest development, the latest news that you know about when I say Syria. What's the thing that you know before we go too deep into it? Yeah, please.
The Barack Obama announced a diplomatic pact. I'm working with Russia, China, and UK and other European countries to put pressure on the Assad government, the Syria government.
All right. So, but why was it necessary? Like, what's happening right now in Syria before we start to have the solutions and what's going on? So, what's going on there right now? What's the problem? Just for the viewers who are not up to date.
Many thousands of civilians were killed, especially women and children, because of the use of chemical weapons by the government.
Okay. What's the latest news that you got?
The latest news is from this morning. I think the foreign minister of John Kerry is in Geneva to discuss about the Syria issue with Russia and also a representative from United Nations and also some of the important people. I think it will take 2 days to discuss about it. But US is saying is like, like if they don't have a concrete solution, or like now is that Russia is proposing of like we can get weapons to international, right? And then they will destroy it under the eye of international. So, but the Syria also government agreed that, but there is no concrete solution. So US said if there is no solution, they are not going to waste the time.
All right.
I also have some breaking news. This morning, Press TV announced that Russia presented evidence to the United Nations Security Council on the use of chemical weapons by the rebels, the opposition, not by the Assad government, which is like a really new development which will put a lot of pressure on the United States now in terms of responding to that and also delivering evidence on the use of chemical weapons by the Assad regime, what they are claiming basically.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I have similar news since, of course, since you always use news sources. Now, what's the thing like when we talk about the whole issue that makes you being like involved, upset, angry? That what's the main issue that's really like concerning you? Because the big part of the world didn't really care about Syria until recently, when the chemical weapons have been used. It's like, well, for 2 years they keep fighting, whatever, and hey, now they do the chemical weapons, now we have to intervene. So, when did you get involved, and what's the thing that actually really concerns you the most?
For me, I've been in Myanmar. Also, our country has been transformed since 2010. The same here with the Arab Spring. But they also transform, and also our country has been transforming. So but however, the transformation is different. That's why I'm really interested to look upon other different transformation period of other countries.
Okay. So how have you been like involved in touch with Syria? Why?
Okay, so for me, I listen radios almost every day, every morning. So, and also I'm kind of interested in political issues, not just in Burma, and also what is happening around the world, right? So, the first interest was about Egypt. Later on, the Syria issue came. So, and also like U.S. start talking about like Syrian government start using the chemical weapon. Many thousands of people died.
That's why what I mean now, because like a big part of the world didn't really care about it until they used chemical weapons. So that's also the point when you said, hey, that's getting more and more dangerous.
Because of the chemical weapon that kill many people, and it's kind of like break the international law. That's also affect or not affect is in the UDHR that cannot kill other life, and in this case the government kill their own citizen, so that is the time for the international to look upon this issue.
I've been watching what is going on ever since the Arab Spring very closely, because generally I'm quite interested in geopolitics itself, like what are the interests of the actors involved, and how does the balance of power look in the whole region of the Middle East. But leaving that aside, what really concerns me obviously is that it is a humanitarian catastrophe. More than 4 million people, I believe, altogether between 4 and 6 million people are either on refuge in neighboring countries or internally displaced. Definitely more than 100,000 people killed by now in a country that has only 30 million citizens. That is like a huge chunk and destabilizes the entire region. So what really concerns me actually is what people face on the ground. On the other hand, I am just kind of a hobby or whatever. I'm really interested in understanding the ways that the major powers are shifting within the Middle East.
Just to add something to what you just said, the numbers, I of course Googled the numbers before and to make sure I know and I say the right ones. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says there are 6.8 million people in need for 4.25 million internally displaced. 1.3 million children actually in need, and 2 million refugees are registered, so there will be even more refugees, of course. So that's a huge number, as I mentioned before. And I also want to say one quote that I read like earlier today. Ban Ki-moon, like the Secretary General of the United Nations, he said it was a mistake to wait 2 years to intervene. He said we should have done it, the United Nations should have done it earlier. What do you think? Because you said you came like onto the Syria issue like after they used the chemical weapons. I was like, oh my god, but shouldn't the United Nations have prevented that by intervening earlier?
I would say it's really difficult, particularly this conflict is very confusing due to many different groups of rebels and opposition fighters. And what makes it even more difficult is particularly Russia's standpoint. Syria is their last ally in the Middle East. Iran, on the other hand, is also very interested in maintaining the status quo in Syria with the Assad regime. But particularly Russia, and Russia has emancipated over the last decade, basically. Under Putin, they have centralized power, they have regained power capabilities, and I believe are now more willing to object to American hegemony. Definitely. Therefore, it is very hard to find consensus in the United Nations. It's impossible. And even unilateral action by the United States or the NATO would be really dangerous if you have Russia on the other side, delivering weaponry, giving support, or maybe even intervening.
Right. Just to have a clear view of who's involved actually before you continue talking about like Russia and all the parts, like who's involved and who's fighting whom and who's supporting which party? Like who's involved in the war in Syria? You mentioned a lot, but I just would like to know what's your point of view, like what do you know, like who's involved, who's like supporting which side?
For me, so far, when I look at the news is, as he said before, like Russia on the side for the government, and also, people don't say it, but on the back of the rebellion, there is, U.S. is there, supporting many weapons and like they used to support us, in the past, like in Burma.
I also feel that it is not only a case of Syria, it's also a case of power shifting between either US or the Russia. It's a kind of like a newfound I will say it's like a neo-Cold War, like they also playing a game.
Like we have
they're playing cat and mouse. It's not a real Cold War game, but they are challenging each other recently.
But it's basically like, it takes the Syrian government, the rebels, and then it's the US backing the rebels, the Russians backing the government.
It's much more complicated.
Right, that's what I want to talk about. Okay.
I mean, the opposition groups initially, if we think of the Arab Spring, we think of like liberal democracy movements. There are definitely fighting groups that are seeking a democratic solution. On the other hand, you have many Islamist, fundamentalist groups fighting in the area. You have now Hezbollah, which comes from the south of, actually are Iranian Revolutionary Guards, but dispatched in southern Lebanon since the first Israeli-Lebanon war. They are involved, they are fighting on Syrian ground. You have Muslim Brotherhood-backed groups fighting. You have Al-Qaeda now fighting there. Did you hear about the German? There is a German, he was a rapper. I know a lot of people. He was a rapper before named Diesel Dog. And he turned like really, he was a Muslim convert, he became really Muslim. And recently, like 2 days ago, there was news that he was injured in an air attack in Syria. So he's from Berlin and he's fighting there. So you have like really fighters from all kinds of different backgrounds, from all over the world basically by now, fighting for their own cause. The opposition is, I would say, fractioned, not really coordinated. They are only fighting like locally. If you look at the map where the conflict areas are, they are really remote from each other. So it's really hard also to communicate there. It's confusing and very difficult.
So what's the reason actually behind the fights? Like when did it start? Why? And why are so many people now involved? Besides the cat and mouse game that you mentioned before, but why do people get involved? Like, I mean, if you say I agree with one of those sides, you don't go there to fight actually. Why are so many parties getting involved right now? Why is it so important?
I think because of the using chemical weapons is like law against the humanitarian. Like for example, I will point out the Cambodia case, when it has happened like a kind of genocide, international community involved in those matters in every cases. Also, I believe a chemical weapon is also using chemical weapons also a kind of acts that against the humanitarian. So the international community focus and stress on its issues.
True, that's why more people are interested in it, of course. But why are so many parties actually like fighting there? Like the government, the rebels, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, why are they all involved?
Different people, different background, and different opinions, and different one. Maybe in Syria, there may be some people that they really want the democracy, And maybe in that group also some group that they don't want a democracy, because in Islamic world to follow the democracy is kind of like against some of rule in the Islamic religion. Not rule, but their culture that they practice. So there might be some people that not agree and they raise up and they are.
And that's why so many with the same belief now joins us and more like a religious thing again.
Yeah, it is definitely ideology based. Also in terms of like the whole Middle East is subject to completely different approaches to how people want the Middle East to look like. In terms of you have so-called pan-Arabism, then you have people that support a new caliphate. They want basically a Muslim Sharia-based caliphate throughout the whole Middle East. Then you have democracy movements, you have nationalists, you have all kinds of different worldviews compiled in an unstable region that is economically doing not so well. If you look at GDP per capita in Syria, I believe it's around $2,500 or something like that. That is about the same as, I don't know, Philippines or Vietnam or Indonesia or something like that. So these people live also economically unstable and so on. Plus you have major international powers that have economic interests there, and political interests, strategic interests. So it is the mass of interests makes it so difficult and confusing. If you have so many people that are interested in the same area, it makes it really difficult. And it's not particularly Syria that is so interesting, because geopolitically it is not as crucial as other states. It doesn't have that much resources and so on. One thing I still wanted to mention is because you said the use of chemical weapons now, triggers international action. Saddam Hussein in Iraq, he has used chemical weapons against the Kurdish population there during the 90s several times, and there was nothing, no action taken. Right? Only after 9/11 and after the US already went to Afghanistan and so on, they then decided to go to Iraq on the ground of that the accusation that there are chemical weapons. But it was completely neglected for a long time. So it is kind of strange that suddenly there is a chemical weapons attack, and now there's a real big outcry. There's a political interest behind that. And if you look at the numbers, you have 100,000 dead people anyway, and I'm not trying to mitigate, it's a big one. But then through that chemical weapon attack, I think numbers are like around 1,200 or 1,400 casualties. If you put it into proportion, consequentially, why no action earlier? Why not such a major outcry?
I also believe that after the 9/11 attack, I think most of the people came to know the Middle East. Before 9/11, for people, we really used to know about the Middle East. After 9/11 attack, so many people put their eye on the Middle East, and also the technology effect. Because of the technology, the shifting of the information flow is very fast, very fast, very faster than before. So it is much more. It is also one of the better of international community eyes.
Of course, true. But I'm still sticking with the one point that you just mentioned with the chemical weapons. Now there's this outcry. Oh my God, they use chemical weapons. Of course, it's a very bad thing. No, don't need to talk about that. But the question remains: why no intervention earlier? Why didn't anyone say, hey, we have to stop this? Because now that even the Secretary General of the United Nations has said we failed, the UN failed in addressing this issue, there might have been something that should have been done before, but now it's moot to talk about that since the time passed. But now it's interesting, since the US talking about possible strikes or not, whatever. I read this morning that only 4 out of 10 Americans would approve a strike. They say no. What's your take on it? Do you say yeah, go for it, or is it no, stay where you belong? What do you say?
I think for US citizens, you know, they have had experience with Iraq, right?
Right.
So they are scared, and also many people die in Iraq, and also not just Iraqi people, and also, you know, the soldiers, the American soldier, and also because of lots of money, right, sending a troop to Iraq. Also, I think many U.S. citizens don't want U.S. government going through Syria. They want. I think many citizens want to solve the problem diplomatically. You know.
Actually, to just address what you said, the CNN posted it earlier today that when the US went to Iraq, or like 8 out of 10 people said, yeah, we have to intervene. And they went to Afghanistan, it was like 5 out of 10, and now it's like 4 or even less. So the mood, the perception in the US also changes. But what's your perception of that? Should the US be like the police and intervene?
Alright.
You were waiting like, come on, let me talk. Let's go.
Alright. Personally, yes, I'm supporting an intervention by now. I think it doesn't really matter what interests, what interests drive the intervention, but just the fact that you have to, if you have like a bipolar balance of power in the country, the conflict will just continue and continue and continue. They always say, we're going to join the negotiation table, both sides say that we're going to join the negotiation table as soon as the balance of power on the ground has shifted a little bit to our side, basically. Both of them, and since both of them aim to shift the balance of power, you know, nothing happens. So you have to basically crush one side. So therefore I support the intervention because you just have to stop the killing. It is too much by now. I am not someone who says directly intervene as soon as a civil war breaks out and you know, people die or whatever, but if you have numbers to the extent we have them now, then yes, I support intervention, and I will support something like the non-fly zone the United States imposed on Libya, which I would say was at least strategically or militarily successful, more or less successful. And but the public opinion thing, domestic public opinion in the United States was always difficult. It's historically very difficult. In the Second World War, public opinion was isolationist. Nobody wanted the United States to join the Second World War. It is in the hands of skilled leaders to alter public opinion. Roosevelt did that during the Second World War. I believe Obama is capable of doing it from his skill set. And public opinion is, you know, the common man is so dispatched from what is going on in the Middle East, first of all, what is going on in geopolitics. You know, me personally, understand maybe 5% of it, you know. It is still in the leaders' responsibility, even democratically elected leaders, which have to respond to public opinion, it is their responsibility to be better at analyzing the situation and seeing long-term developments, foreseeing them, predicting them better than the common man does, and therefore then influencing public opinion to a certain degree.
And just to add to that, because Obama addressed the nation yesterday evening in the US, and actually I think when trying to convince them that military action is still necessary, he said something similar compared to what you just said. He said, if you don't intervene, then it will never stop. So that's basically what you said also, like we have to do something because we have to stop it. That's
Although
like,
Obama he will say whatever helps.
Of course,
you know,
of course.
It is not in any way, if you listen to Obama's speeches, it is always calculated talk, you know, it is to influence opinion and so on.
Of course, that's
However,
political leader too, right?
Yeah, however, it is very, very skilled. So I'm convinced that he can manage the situation better than other presidents we had before in the United States.
Yeah. No, I just think it's interesting to see that how he tries to convince them just by what you said, and he repeats that like in his speech, I think 3 or 4 times he says that if we don't intervene now, nothing will happen. But so what, now we have Jonathan's take on it, like, what do you think? Say yeah, intervene, or is it a serious problem?
Yes.
Yes.
If
A
not,
very long answer, very short answer.
if not, there will be more and more civilians in Syria will die because of this issue.
Then I have to say, I have to tell you something, like when I watched the news yesterday, for example, when Obama addressed the nation, they didn't broadcast it in Syria, but of course there were people having internet, or they somehow managed to see it. And the people they broadcasted pictures of people who were like screaming for joy, like, yeah, there's no strike yet, because he said they're on hold right now, right? Because Syria said, yeah, maybe we're gonna handle chemical weapons. So because the US said, yeah, we wait, the people were like, yes, they're not gonna kill us. So because they are afraid, of course, of a strike by the US. So it's also one part that I then understood was like, yeah, okay, the civilians. So still, what's your take on it? I just wondering.
You know, it is a complicated issue.
Of course.
And one way I want U.S. intervention in Syria. And also another thing is that we also have to look at it. Many people were dying, right? So, like for example, like in the past 10 years, like Burma, they want U.S. to come, they want United Nations to come, to intervention in Burma, right? But after that, we look at it, Iraq, many people die and many things were destroyed, right? So I don't know, it's just complicated issue, So I want to say yes, and also I want to think carefully on, how we're going to manage, let's say that, let's say if they do intervention, if they go in, 100 people will die, let's say. So how we have to think a way of, make it less people dying, like instead of 100, maybe make it 10 or something like that. So it's, sometimes I feel like no, sometimes I feel like okay, yes, US should definitely do it, because now like many thousands of people are being like internally displaced and also leaving to other countries. Many people die. Some of them are still suffering from chemical weapons. I don't know.
So right now, would you say yeah, let's wait if it works out with handing over the chemical weapons and other things, or?
I think first, now I think they should talk. They should try to get many countries to enroll, and then maybe find a better way and wait, and then let's see whether the Syrian government is going to hand the chemical weapons to international. But on the other hand, too, also it would be so difficult for destroying the chemical weapons. So we also.
That's a good point. Before you enter, just add something to that, because I read the tour, of course, and they said it's already difficult to actually destroy chemical weapons while you're in peace. When you do it during the civil war, it will be even more difficult because you have to secure the area, of course, and it's not only by putting one guard at the gate. You need troops there that actually are on the ground, that march in there, that secure the whole area, because some idiot will, of course, try to shoot them or intervene there. So it's not just like going there, taking the weapons, saying, yeah, we're done. It's a very, very big project that also will have troops on the ground, and that will also lead to casualties, of course. Just wanted to add that, because I read it earlier, and I thought it's interesting to share it. It's not just like, here are the weapons and we're done. It's more difficult. But do I want to say something?
But I would rather say no than yes, because sometimes international intervention can make a country more complex and complicated than it used to be. For let's say, okay, in Thailand now we have a very big civil war happening now. Also, the U.S. is coming to intervene in the country, and on the other hand, China and Russia is also coming to intervene the country because of they also interested in the geographically the area. So they will come inside and they will intervene again. And even in the country, there are so many different ideologies against each other. And that if international community come inside, it will be more complicated issue and more ideology, and it is like it will be very complicated. For example, in the 1996, the U.S. intervened to Afghanistan. Then it created wars because it happened like the U.S. supported Taliban governments. It was worse than before. Okay, when U.S. intervened to the Syria, okay, which sides it will support? Okay, either like the government or the rebel group. If the U.S. intervened to the Syria, also the Syria is one of the allies for Russia. So the Russia will also intervene in the country. So it is very difficult to say yes.
It's an interesting question, like what happens? If you intervene, what happens if you don't intervene? You again look like you wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, the ideal solution, or there is no ideal solution in the war anyway, but the best solution at hand would be internationally cooperated intervention, I believe, led by the United Nations. But since that won't happen, or most likely won't happen, I don't want to say for sure that it won't happen, I hope it will, then you have the question whether part of the international community should act on their own. And I would say by now, yes. If you would have intervened much earlier, at a point where I still would have said no intervention, the outcome would have probably been a better one than if you do it right now. If you would have basically during the Arab Spring movements in the beginning, where like the major part of the protest was like aimed towards democracy and so on, towards institution building, towards state building, if you would have backed that more and brought down the Assad regime, pressured it even more, not just with economic sanctions, you would probably have a more stable situation. If you intervene now with all these different groups involved and so on, that means you also have to take into account that it requires staying in the country with a security force for a long time, 10 years, 20 years, who knows, and to build a stable regime, a stable democratic institutions in the country. But I think it is necessary right now. And if it is, the more countries join, the better. Europe is absolutely cowardish. They're all hiding behind the trees.
Yeah.
And then you can also finance it. Even for the United States now, unilaterally, with taking into account that the public support is lacking and so on. It is difficult for them to act unilaterally if they don't have support from Europe. It's going to give them a really hard time. I'm for an intervention now, and I would say as many countries as possible should join actually.
And don't just sit and wait if they actually hand over chemical weapons and they say, oh.
If I believe in these circles, you can tell whether people are at the negotiation table or not.
Yeah.
And if the diplomats that are dealing with the representatives of the Assad regime feel that they are taking the negotiations serious and so on, then I would say okay, keep talking. But if the situation on the ground stays the way it is, then I am for an intervention rather sooner than later.
And how about the fact that the US says, okay, we can wait a while, but we still keep our forces at hand, in case the negotiation they won't actually have any positive result, then we're going to strike. And the Russians say, no, you can't do that, you can pressure people, they're going to hand us over the chemical weapons, so you cannot pressure them. Yeah, keep pressuring. I mean, I guess I know you're right.
I know that even Russia is pressuring Syria. You know, Russia is not okay with the use of chemical weapons.
Of course not.
So they are probably telling them straightforward, you're going to lose our support completely if you do that one more time.
Right.
Basically, if they did it, I don't know. Yeah, intervention.
So it was like just the question before, pressuring further, saying you gotta hand us over the chemical weapons, otherwise you're gonna strike, or saying, okay, you're so nice, you negotiated us, we're gonna send our forces away. What do you think?
Before the negotiation, both sides have to know the root cause of the problem. That why the Assam government do this kind of harmful things to their own citizens, and also in the fact that almost of the citizens they want the democracy, and I think the international they may have the best way to negotiate.
So that's why you say intervene and then take over the negotiations.
Intervene means that according to the news, they will intervene with the diplomatic way, right? Not the harmful way, not just like take the arm and fight back to the Assam government. Not that kind of intervene.
So you're saying like diplomatic way, and we give them the freedom to negotiate.
Not just freedom, but
Not the freedom to negotiate, not just freedom, but the freedom to do the negotiations without pressure. Okay, just making sure I understand. What's your take on that? You're looking like you're thinking very hard.
Because if like there's some country that puts more pressure on Assam government, and they might not feel free to negotiate with the international, because
Should they be free?
no, I mean that not feel free. I mean that the belief, not just only feel free, because if the negotiation happen, and if the Assam government not believe on what is going to happen in the future, for example, like if they like give up and they won't harm their citizen again, and they will move back and towards their step of moving back, the international will not hurt them or will not harm their group.
Okay.
In this case, as my perspective, the negotiation will be like better.
Okay.
You know, for like 50 or 60%, you know, I agree about. You know, like as I said before, like yes, sometimes I feel like yes, sometimes I feel like no, right? And now we also have like I think one way yes is it's good to go in, because the Syrian government has many weapons, and they are the third largest, right? Weapons they have in the war, right? The first one is the first two are UK, US and Russia, right? And then the third one is Syrian government. They have lots of weapons. And what are they? Why do they have? You know, there's so many, you know, chemical weapons. Like we have to also look at it. Maybe it might not just for the, you know, just for Syria rebellion, you know, to fight with rebellion. Okay. So maybe they might have another intention to, you know, to do other maybe. So if, and also another my concern, if US decide to go in, they will also use a chemical weapon to, you know, to fight back with the US government. So all I think is about the citizen of Syria, right? So they will be in the middle, right? Between, so if the U.S. doesn't go in along with the support from the international community, what will happen? We also have to look at it. And then if U.S. go in, of course, definitely Syrian government they will use the chemical weapon against the U.S. So and then many people will also die.
Right, and then again, the question: if they don't go in, won't they do it again?
Yeah. She mentioned one very important point, like basically the question, why do they have these weapons?
Right.
And I just read an article yesterday evening by Noam Chomsky, who is against intervention because he's always against intervention. But I agree often with him. He basically says much more important than joining in what he calls illegal intervention, because if it's not by the United Nations communicated one, then it basically is against international law. It is much more important to join like an international effort to decrease the number of chemical weapons in the whole world. And in the United States themselves, they have huge amounts of chemical weapons, like several other countries in the world. So it is equally important, I would say, not even more, but equally important to address that topic and increase the effort to come to a solution.
For me, I was part of the negotiation point. Yeah, whenever we talk about the negotiation, it is very easy to talk, very easy to say it's the negotiation was. But actually, it is very difficult to conduct in the real situation, especially for example in Syria, the government commits so many crimes against humanitarian. So if it is very difficult to him to negotiate, because of if the other party got the power, they will take action of what he committed before. And so it is, I believe, whether it is an international hub or not, it is very difficult to negotiate, and unless he got some kinds of amnesty. But if without amnesty, it is very difficult to negotiate with him because he will never give up.
I support solutions like an amnesty solution, because I don't think it is about one person anymore. You know, if 100,000 of people die, see, I don't even care if he can live his life and if he can still look in the mirror and with his conscience or whatever. I don't care about that person. He can even have a villa in the United States somewhere. I don't. It is much more important to stop the killing.
Save the people. Then, do we think that's a valid option that, for example, the US would go for?
They would probably not welcome him in the United States.
No, I mean, not him living in the States. I mean, the end is the option. Yes.
I'm sure that's probably on the table a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it's probably on the table.
Long time ago, offered probably, and but he doesn't go for it. You have to see also the background. Assad, his father took over the country from the French, as far as I know. It was like a French mandate area. And these people, they come from the Arab tribes of the Arab Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, Mecca, Medina, and so on. They are so-called Alevites, one of the Arab tribes. And culturally, it is this power position or this hierarchy in tribes is very important, and they see the land as belonging to them, is their right to govern the land, or to, and therefore these people hold on to power in almost any circumstances.
True.
They would die for it because they think they are legitimately own this country's country.
I also read an interesting statement from the States actually, saying that what happens if the States, if they would intervene, or the United Nations, they would say, okay, let's go for it, there's an intervention, military, and the outcome isn't what you expect. Like, you don't kill him, for example, he's still there. Or And then they say, okay, you tried to kill us, let's strike back, or let's strike again within our own country, because they can't strike back towards the US, but let's do it again in our own country, let's kill even more people in our own country. So it's also a point that I already had to consider before actually striking. What do you think about that? Is that a valid point?
Yeah, generally, always, if you are by number or physically weaker, in a weaker position, you resort to unconventional or non-traditional warfare,
Exactly.
which is asymmetric. That means you fight differently than your opponent,
Right.
mostly in form of guerrilla warfare or terrorist means, attacks and so on. Yeah, definitely possible. They use civilian population to protect their bases and so on. They already do that, as far as I know. And but the thing is, you cannot say it's too difficult to keep civilian casualties out, so we're not doing any. I think right now intervention is necessary, and not taking action is as immoral as basically. I would say taking action now is more moral than inaction.
I have two more questions here, but the one question is like what we talked about for the last 45 minutes already. How do we solve it? Like not me, but like you said the ideal solution. You presented it already. You said let's wait for a diplomatic way to solve it. I still want to know like how should the next steps, how should they look like? Intervention and then no intervention and then. And then the final question would be how will it affect us? How will it affect the world?
How will it affect us? I think it could really backfire in terms of if the United States fails at reaching a credible solution within an intervention, then probably in the region, the whole public mood will again shift against the United States, will become really influenced by Islamic fundamentalism and so on. We don't welcome you, what you're doing here, and so on. And so it could backfire, but I still say that that is not a reason not to take action, And the best solution would be a well-cooperated intervention that has huge backup within the international community. Otherwise, it will become really difficult, but I think it is still necessary. Even if the United States decides to take unilateral action, I would not probably support that.
Why aren't we, like as Europeans, why aren't we supporting them?
Because we are idiots. No, seriously, all this, I'm really disgusted by the way Europe now handles foreign policy issues. Always emphasizing that we are liberal democracies, we stand for human rights and so on. It is deeply rooted in European history, and therefore you also have to take responsibility. You cannot just hide behind a liberal curtain all the time. It's annoying. But also the public mood in Europe is very, we have nothing to do with the Middle East, it's not our responsibility, what are we doing in Afghanistan anyway, so why would we go to Syria now and so on. If the United States has interest, okay, go, because the United States then secures European interest. We need the oil as much as the United States needs the oil, that means they do the job.
If they do, we don't have to go.
Exactly, that is, if they do it, we don't have to do it. Unilaterally, we cannot do it anyway because the United States tells us what to do. So,
we did a weak spot. Okay, so again, like we know like where we stand with having an intervention or not, but what's going to be the effect, the outcome afterwards? What do you think?
I would say the probable outcome is a country that will be unstable for the next 10, 20 years, with terrorist groups fighting each other, fighting whoever. We'll have weak institutions. That, however, depends on how well the intervention works and how well then rebuilding the country and building institutions works. Probably we'll have two weak institutions to govern the country effectively, and thus people will still die. However, we maybe will be able to contain or limit the extent of the civil war at the conflict.
Nodding means I agree.
I agree with what you were saying about, like it would take, like after the intervention, the country might take maybe more than 20 years, or everything's like rebuilding, and also it might sometimes be like where it's happening right now in Egypt, right? So because the shifting from the regime to a military rule, it might also take many years. Like in Burma, we cannot say now we have democratic, we have a full democracy. We are still very young, right? So we have so many problems. The same thing, it might happen in Syria too. After intervention, the new government came. We have to also look at the new government. Like rebellion also, they are very strong, right? They are very, some of them are very extreme. So yeah, and it will take time for country rebuilding and for intervention. If US, if they decided to go, they really need to get a lot of international support from many international.
If you don't get the support, like, because we are cowards. So then if they don't get support, or they won't get it right away. I read if they would get the support, it would take until mid of October until they could.
I mean, Germany, whether Germany decides to support or not doesn't matter, because the German army is a joke anyway. They have 10% of their soldiers.
We send our money, not our army, so yeah.
Money?
No, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah,
but it's not about Germany in this case. It's like if the states, if they don't get the support from the international community, and if they would get the support, but I don't know, I read like until it passes all councils, it would take like until mid of October until they actually could do something. So waiting, not waiting, let's go for it. That's on the question. Because you also they should do it with international support, but it would take such a long time to get
gives them Assad the opportunity to defend all these important, strategically important bases and so on.
Yeah, right.
I think US,
US, I think it's definitely going. They are not going to waste their time.
I think so too. But then this will bring up the question, like, I mean, right now, I think we somehow agree that something needs to be done, but then it's like always like, hey, US, you're the Cowboys, you go for it, do it. Kind of like the image that it might have done.
Yeah, but I still believe that we have to talk about the legitimacy for decades.
Yeah.
Because it happened because the government is not legitimate, because of the people didn't give their sovereignty to the government at that stage. But however, of course, yes, if it is work in a collaborative action of intervention led by United Nations, but it is ready to happen. But okay, for example, can we say that if we give the legitimacy from outside of the country, can we say it is legitimate? It is my concern, because of sometimes the legitimacy comes from their own nation. They give their sovereignty to the governments. But what about if they intervene from the outside? I'm still concerned with it. It is legitimate or?
Okay, I understand. You say it should come from within the country. Which is
my concern, yeah.
In this case, not possible.
Yeah.
Is the idea of self-determination, basically,
right.
that the people of the country decide about their future.
What if they can't decide?
Yeah, and the thing is, even if 50% say, okay, we want to keep the Assad regime, but that regime is killing hundreds of thousands of people and using chemical weapons, I would say that it just disqualifies the regime itself. Despite the fact, you know, Hitler Germany had great popular support in Germany, and that, you know, you cannot say he's a legitimate leader because they support 90% of the Germans support him in killing 6 million Jews. So we have to have some kind of international assessment of the situation. Assessing the situation and drawing the red line is probably also the most difficult thing ever.
Right, so
And
when do you actually take action?
Right, and what do you look at, like intentions, consequences, and so on, is very difficult to decide. And I now would even support that in international law we have some kind of number limit or percentage limit of casualties, where after that number or that percentage is reached, international intervention is required. Without consensus or not, they have to go, basically. Which many people would disagree with me because they would say, if you draw the line, where do you draw the line? And they say, are the deaths that occurred before that line irrelevant? Don't you have to intervene for those or whatever? But I think you have to be practical in some way.
Unfortunately, you need to have like kind of rules or guidelines or whatever you want to call it, but something that you can actually then take out and say, yeah, come on, now we have to intervene. And so
I mean, we have the rule that the use of chemical weapons is illegal. Therefore, it should trigger consequences.
Right. So it seems, yeah, I think we could talk forever, but since we are all here for almost 1 hour already, let's try to come to an end, and we all have our ideas. We can try to talk about that. Still, I would like to know, like, what do you think? Because we had it too. What do you think are the effects? Yeah, what's the outcome?
The outcome?
Yeah, what does it
I'm
affect?
sure that the outcome will be like, there will be a lot of damaging in the country. But the best solution, the best way for those people in the country is the education, as my perspective, because the only education that can protect or that can prevent not to let this kind of issue happen again. Because if the people in Syria in the future, all of the people in that country, they know about the education and the rule of law, the real democracy. They will choose their own government by the people. And
Sure, you can't start right away educating right now, but because I agree that education on the long run is of course the most important thing. But at first there needs to be something to be done to actually be able to educate people and to give them the freedom to enjoy this kind of education. There's one question, actually I just saw like a ticker coming something in that says like that Russia hands the plans to the US, how they're actually planning to get hold of the chemical weapons. This means it's not like just, hey, we do that to stay out, they actually give them the plans and hey, that's our plan, how to do that. Does that change anything?
You have to say that Vladimir Putin is a very, very skilled politician. He is right now really fooling the United States. He's improving his position. He's improving Russia's power position immensely. Through these moves, it's a dangerous game, but I think he does it quite skillfully. Because you know, he sees how inconsistent the United States acts, and he uses every loophole basically to challenge them. He says, "Where's the evidence? They can't provide evidence." He says, "Okay, we have evidence." He submits it officially to the UN Security Council. Now he says, "We have a plan to get rid of those chemical weapons." Yeah, very good.
Very, very good, but it doesn't change anything regarding your
No.
take. No, of course not. I just thought it's interesting to mention that.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
That why Russia changed his side to like against the Syria before they support the Syria, right?
No, I think Russia is still supporting.
Yeah,
They
it's
could
supporting
change
the
his
intention
side.
side.
They have to, yeah, but they use diplomatic talk in terms of that they also condemn the use of chemical weapons.
They can also say, yeah, go for it. Of course. Yes.
Can we also say that Russia and US they are trying to like showing that which one they have more power by using the Syria as a tool.
I think you could say that that's how we started, I think, right? Yeah, this is cat and mouse, like terms of cat and mouse game.
It's not a question about who has more power. The United States has way stronger power capabilities,
Right.
but Russia is emerging, and certainly sometime may be able to challenge the United States in some areas. Same thing with China.
And the US, they have to think about more about the consequences about their movements,
Right.
what they do, so because there are more people watching, and within the government there are more different opinions.
And we shouldn't take for granted that the United States will remain the world hegemon like forever.
Yeah.
I still personally prefer having the United States as world police or whatever, even though I disagree with so many things in that country. But I still think it's better than China or Russia, or I can think of anyone else.
Yeah.
Because at least in the United States, they still have to respond in some way to public pressure. And also the liberal values and ideas are way more emancipated than in other major powers of the world.
Nothing to add. Okay, then there's one question that comes up from that perspective. You mentioned before, many times we saw it before when the US went to Iraq and the US went to Afghanistan, and don't we ever learn from that? Does nobody ever learn from that? It happens again and again and again and again and again. That's no, I don't expect an answer to the question.
We also saw United States intervention in Europe once. We saw economic reconstruction plan, the Marshall Plan, was very successful in rebuilding and reshaping Europe, although it was in order to contain communism, to contain Russia. That was the direct American interest, but it was successful.
I didn't mean actually the American intervention, because I'm actually on the same side, saying they need that, but I was saying that things like repeat themselves all the time. The problems that we see to having civil wars happening in countries, and then they are growing bigger and bigger, and more parties getting involved. It's just kind of sad to see it happen again and again and again and again and again. But probably nothing you can do about it.
War probably has always been there. Will always.
Yeah, no.
Like I don't believe there is total perpetual peace possible in this.
If there is some kind of power involved somewhere, there will always be a fight about it, of course. Since it's almost past 4, final last words from each and every one of you before we finish our talk today. What do you want to say to the world before we finish our topic today? Silence.
What I want to say is, like right now, the involvement of United Nations, Russia, and China, and US on Syria issue, it shouldn't take that long. Sometimes go in discussion, and it takes time, and meeting again. And, so if they are going to do something, make it a proper decision and do it. Otherwise, it will be taking time. And also, I want to tell to Russia and China and other countries to give us support, and also not to give support on the Syrian government. using the chemical weapon on civilian, or also fighting with the rebellion. So it's not acceptable. It is illegal.
Alright.
What I want to say is, play game of the superpower country make harmful to the, like I say, small countries. But you will take action of it. However, it is impossible. I want to say.
I think the world should aware on the third world war, not the war of like fighting, but it will be the war of like playing the power among the powerful countries.
Alright. I first of all would like to say that I'm very displeased with the fact that many leaders in the world have become very disconnected to the needs and the suffering of people on the ground, which I think is one of the biggest problems we have. And after all, that may seem like a bit of strange because I support an intervention now in Syria. I will just quote a guy whose name I don't know, but he's the last surviving soldier of the First World War. And he said, war is nothing but organized mass killing. That's it.
Alright, then I say thank you for joining this Hangout topic this time. It was interesting to talk to you. Just briefly announce the next week's topic. Next week will be about jobs, trends in jobs, how to find jobs for the future. Join us again. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. And yeah, thank you.